Well, my surf fishing friends, we are outside the door of Clems right now as I speak. It closed and now it's opened. We're going in. Come on, let's go. Before we talk about the things I hate, let's talk about the stuff everybody loves. It's the Sands in the Surf merch shop. Yes, do you need a Team Puffer shirt? Yes, you do. Or maybe perhaps Team Bluefish. Sands in the Surf-shop.fourthwall.com. I'll put a link below. You can get bathing suits, you can get glasses, you can get buttons. Another great thing, Clems is open. That's right. The old new Clems. It looks a lot like the old Clems. They have live bait. They've got tackle on the wall. But I said, do you have any bait shrimp? And he said, yeah, I got some right here. And I'm like, all right. I also looked at the counter of shame. Yes, this is where you go when you don't catch fish. But they do have crustaceans. They got some crawfish in there. I know it's hard to see through the glass, but take my word for it. They had clams. Clems has clams, and you can get those. And you can get bait shrimp. And I said, can you pick out the bait shrimp that work? Because I don't want any bait shrimp that don't catch fish. I only want the bait shrimp that catch fish. And he was more than happy to oblige. So he stuck them all in that bag, and I was psyched as ready to go with my new fresh Clems bait. So I went to Caswell. You know what I hate? Waking up for students. So some of my students were like, Mr. Sands, let's go fishing. We want to go fishing. We want to go fishing. That's how they talk. We want to go fishing. I said, all right, when do you want to go? They said, let's go Saturday at 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm not getting up Saturday. But I did. I got up at Saturday, 6:30 in the morning, went down to Caswell Beach, and I threw out some big bait because the tide was coming up and I was hoping to get something big. And I also threw out some of the shrimp, and I did happen to catch a couple of whiting. And you might look around and think like, whiting, that's cool. Why are you the only one catching the whiting? It's because the kids, like, where are they? Great question. Where are you, students who wanted to go fishing? That's right. Oh, there I go. My catch and release on my whiting there. They're very slippery. Clouds. There are clouds in the sky. I'm not thinking this is going to be a great morning. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm fishing in the rain. The fish don't like getting wet, but I don't like getting wet. Maybe they don't mind it, but I caught another whiting, and that's cool. But the kids didn't show up. They were no shows. And then when I asked them on Monday, they were like, well, it started raining, so we went to McDonald's. I'm like, you went to McDonald's? I was like, I was there at 6:30. It didn't start raining until like 7:30. Anyway, they were like, Another thing I don't like, seaweed. It's not so bad this time of year, but in March, catch some seaweed. That's one of the things I hate about surf fishing. There's a lot of times in the March, there's a lot of that seaweed right there in the surf, and it gets caught up, like right at the wash, and it gets caught up on your line, and that can be miserable. I don't mind necessarily catching stingray, which I have here, but I don't particularly like their rubbery mouths. They have these rubbery mouths that make it very hard to get the hook out, and also don't want to get stung. So I picked him up by his barb, and so I have the rubber mouth stingrays. One thing I don't like. Pick him up by his barb so I don't get stung, and release him. But the reason I said the rubbery mouth is because when I took the hook out of his rubbery mouth, which I had to use the pliers, the hook broke. It actually broke. I didn't notice it until after I went to put bait on the hook, and as you can see here, I broke it off. It stuck in his rubbery mouth, and when I tried to twist it out, it broke. So broken stingray hooks is another thing I don't particularly like. You know what's worse than not catching a fish? I think this is worse. Catching a fish and having it, he's got one on the line, he is reeling it in, and then pop. I saw it go right there, and you can't see it because there's so much rain on the lens, but this guy was fishing next to me, and he had this big fish right up to the surf, and it got off the hook. So I do hate that. I'm sure you do too. Anyway, so much rain on my lens there, I'm like, you can't even see what I'm doing. I'm packing up. We'll try again someplace else. So, I did. I went back out on an afternoon, sort of, I guess, low tide-ish, which is not my favorite time to go fishing. And look at my bucket. You might not notice this because you're so busy engaged in that fresh Clems bait, but there is something missing in that bucket, which is going to make my day very difficult. So anyway, I'm going to cut up, I got my handy-dandy scissors here, and I'm going to cut up the shrimp, and I'm going to put the shrimp on the hook. It wouldn't make my life much easier if you could tell what it was I was missing there, which I'll show you in a minute. But I take the heads and tails, and here's a good luck tip, not something I hate. Throw the heads and tails in the water. It fires up the fish. Guaranteed to catch fish if you do that. Now, here's another thing I hate. You ever get your rods and reels down there, and they're just a big tangled mess? Sometimes that happens. Okay, it always happens. It always happens to me. You get down there and you're super excited, and there's a tangled line, and you got to spend 15 minutes untangling your line, and that's probably when the fish was swimming by, probably that moment when I was trying to deal with my untangled line. Anyway, I saw a colony of sand fleas, and I thought to myself, let me rush over there and grab them, but I had forgotten to bring my sand flea scooper picker-upper thingy, so I kind of got them in my hand and put them back on my bucket. Like, it would be better if I had not. So I hate it when I forget my sand flea scooper picker-upper thing. So I just put this little mound of sand on there and got the little sand fleas to kind of stay, since I didn't have a bucket to put them in or keep them in the scooper picker-upper thingy. Anyway, got one on the hook here. And I've seen this trick before where I take the scissor and I just cut off the tail. Yeah, it's because I know that like the little scent is going to get released from the back of that, and it just increases the chances there. So it's another one of the little tips and tricks. So I'm ready to go, except for, I forgot my rod holders. So I had to make this makeshift hole in the ground. I kind of leaned up against my Yeti bucket. I tried without the Yeti bucket. I had a couple of different, but forgetting rod holders. Remember what I did the last video when I was on the boat? I actually brought the rod holders with me on the boat because we stopped at a sandbar. Yeah, so I left them on the boat. So I didn't have the rod holders. And then I had a big fish on the line, and I'm like, wow. Luckily, the whole trick worked. I'm trying not to get sand in my reel, right? But I did have a fish on the line, which is probably from that fantastic sand flea trick I just showed you. And I reeled it in, and it was a shark. Now, I can tell you right now, if you don't like catching sharks, probably don't want to fish Oak Island in, let's say, June, July, and August, because we're probably going to catch a lot of sharks. Little itty bitty sharks like this cutie pie right here, and bigger sharks, and it doesn't really even matter what you're using for bait. He obviously was going after my sand flea and my Clems bait. Then I got my next fish, and it was a real big thing I hate, and that would be a croaker. And I'm putting it down as number 11. I said the top 10 things. Well, croaker is going to be number 11. He's our special number because croakers suck. And then I fished again, and this is my good Clems bait here that I'm using, and I'm wasting it on, you guessed it, another croaker. I'm putting him down as number 12. Also, things I hate about surf fishing is croaker. They have big heads, they don't have any meat or body, and they just steal your bait, and they get in the way of catching good fish, which is what I want to catch, like whiting or black drum or tuna, whatever it is. No one wants to catch a croaker. But I can tell you what number 14 on my list is going to be. It's going to be croaker. Oh, it's 13. Sorry, 13. Number 13 is croaker. So it is at 11, 12, and 13 are all croaker of things I hate about surf fishing. I even had moved down the beach. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter. Once you get into a thing of croaker, you're not getting out. Another thing I don't like, now this is me going in the afternoon about 4:30, is crowded beaches. Listen, people, I don't mind you going to the beach and fishing, but 4:30, it's time to leave. Go to Shagger Jack's, go to Pirate's Deck, get yourself a beer and some chicken wings or something. Get off my beach, because by 5 o'clock, listen, you might not know this, by 5 o'clock, the sharks. Did you ever watch Jaws? That's right. When did the people get eaten? At night. They went swimming at night, and they got eaten by sharks. So leave the beach start packing up at 4:30, so when I get down there, I have a spot to fish, and you don't get eaten by a shark, and you have a great meal, right? So I found I got this clip off of one of my double drop rigs, and it had fallen off by accident, and I was like, this is going to work really well. I'm going to put out this nice big piece of chunky meat of fish here. I guess I was in the mood to catch a shark, because I was testing out this new reel I got, which is like an 8,000, and was trying to think, maybe I can catch a big fish, since all those people are going to be there, and they're going to splash in the water and attract them. I also had my Clems, right? My Clems shrimp, so I'm going to do a little bit of both, a little bit of shrimp. And then here's something that I have said a lot of times in my classes. You might have heard me say this before. You can catch pretty big fish on little hooks. Now, this was a piece of shrimp. This was a 1, not even a 1/0. This was even smaller. It was a 1 hook, 1 circle hook, and look at this shark I got on it. He went for the shrimp. That Clems shrimp works so good. And this is not a little teeny itsy bit. Now, he's not huge. He's no 5-footer or anything like that, but he's a decent sized fish. He's probably like a 2-foot little shark right there. And I caught him on a number 1 hook. So yeah, you can catch big fish on little hooks. Anyway, my other bait was getting eaten by something, and they weren't getting hooked, because this is a big hook, it's a 5/0 hook, and they weren't getting on it. So I thought something's odd about that. So I went I saw it kind of, something's hitting it, right? And this is weird, because the shark will just pick it up and run, but something hit it and then didn't hit it, and then hit it and didn't hit it. And you can see I'm just holding the rod. I'm trying to keep the line tight. I feel a little pack. I feel something happening. I start reeling it in, thinking I got it, and then no, I'm tightening up the line. I'm like, what is going on? That anticipation is great. Like when you're waiting for the fish to get on the line, and I think I got him, and then no, wait. Okay, we got him. And I start reeling him in. And now I'm kind of excited because this feels like a good sized fish. And it was a decent fish. It was a bluefish. Team Bluefish. Did you get your Team Bluefish shirt? You need one for this guy here. Now, he wasn't huge, but I'll tell you what, after catching so many croaker and sharks and everything else, and Kim kept saying, when are you going to bring home some fish? I want some tacos. I'm like, all right, we're going home and we're going to have some bluefish. So now I'm thinking the bluefish are running. I'm going to try to ante up to catch some bluefish. So I got this new kind of a minnow trap going on here. It's brand new. Look how shiny it is. It's not going to look that shiny when I pull it in after one time in the canal. I got a can of cat food, which I cracked open. Didn't open all the way, just cracked. Just want the scent to come out. And I'm going to put the top back on. I'm going to throw it in the canal. I'm going to leave it there overnight. And then when I come back, the next day, I'm just going to pull it in. But when I came back to pull it in, it was low tide. And I noticed that this guy who was working on the dock left his float there. And my brand new fish thingamabiggy is underneath his float, I think, and this thing is crushed. It's got to be crushed. So I had to wait for high tide, and then I was able to pull it up, and I thought this thing's totally going to be squashed. But when I pulled it up, lo and behold, it was not. It was not, and it was filled with little pinfish and some fresh shrimp. So I'm like, this is cool. So back down to the beach one more time, and this time in the morning without my students because it was going to be high tide. The tide was coming up, and I just wanted to wake up and get down there and fish. So now I had live shrimp and live pinfish, the little pinfish. And I thought to myself, I can definitely get some blues. But I didn't anticipate how rough the surf was going to be. And I cast out, and the problem was, if you look at my line pointing, my line's going to the left and the rod's pointing out. So rough surf is another thing I hate about surf fishing. You just can't fish in rough surf because your line just gets pulled over to the side and you never get to actually do any fishing. I was able to, of course, catch a shark. So surprise, right? What I say, June, July, August, you're going to catch sharks. Even in rough surf, you're going to catch these sharks. But they don't bother me too much. So let him go and continue fishing and see if we can get anything. It is something a little bit better. And I really did not catch anything until this last fish I got here. And it was sort of a last Hail Mary. I was ready to pack it up and go. And I got this fish on the line and pulled him in. And it was another nice little bluefish. And then I saw one of my guys out here who watches the videos. And I was like, he was my good luck charm. So I got a bluefish. So let me end on things that I don't hate. Let's end. We started with love for Clems and for the merch shop. Let's end with some love too. Number one, I caught a bunch of fish in the little fish trap, and one of them happened to be a little oyster cracker. Look at him, he's so adorable right here. And I'm like, I'm not going to use him for bait, so I'm going to show him some love. I'm going to let him go. And then a rainbow came out, and I was like, it was just a beautiful